Hello my friends, welcome to another episode of Titan Quest 2. My name is Wilfred. So this game still in early access and we are all waiting for the new Act 2 coming up. There's some sneak preview on the final boss of Act 2 as well as some graphics around it. I think it's pretty exciting. Can't wait for it. So meanwhile, I'm doing what a lot of people are doing is to explore different type of mastery and see how it works. So I'm on to my 6th character, and with my 5th was the previous one I've shared with you, the Unblasted. Unblasted means that there's no mastery, no passive. It's just some basic kind of like, whacking with your weapon and try to block it, and that's it. A little bit soul-like, but that aside, after that experience, I think overall I become more aware of how the boss mechanic work or how the enemies go against me, and it does make me a little bit better as well. And also as I play more and more characters, my knowledge of the game kind of grows. So sometimes when you read all these descriptions, those are words and you don't really get it, but once you experience different build options, that I got it. Now when I play Titan Quest, I always in my mind visualize the Brad Pitt movie. I don't know whether some of you have watched or not. He playing Sparta with the sphere and the shield, and very agile with leather armor and fighting it out with the giants. So I always wanted to play that. Now so far, of all my 5 characters prior to this Stormblade, I wasn't able to do it because it's just not efficient to wear a shield. A shield in this game is very much like kind of protective in a sense. I haven't really got any ability like in other games whereby I can do a shield bash, just bash with the shield, and shield usually doesn't carry any kind of offensive kind of stat, so it's purely defensive. And with that, you only carry one-hand weapon. In this case, my sphere, it doesn't really kind of cut it in some sense, so I couldn't make it work until the Stormblade. And in fact, Stormblade has one clever mechanic, I think, that's able to and use the sphere, and it's still pretty effective as well. Now you see in the footage here, I think it's very agile. As you can see, the boss time is rather okay as well compared to my other characters, and I managed to complete the entire early access in 8 hours. Just nice 8 hours, including experimenting different build and so on, and also 0 defeat. So that is my best record so far. No defeat against any enemies or bosses. Just pure kind of like storm through the whole thing. So I really enjoy my Stormblade. I didn't think that I would, because Rogue didn't quite leave a good impression in my head. But I think possibly because I picked Rogue and Earth, the Ash Stalker, and that was kind of tough. I get into that a bit. Now what makes this build really stand out is that as a rogue, I build for agility, and agility doesn't really mix with the storm build, because storm is into other things like other stats as well. So you can't boost the tool, you can't boost the physical or whatever it is, poison that as well as the spell power. So you have to pick something. So in a very interesting and unique way, right? The lightning bolt has a modifier whereby I can convert that into a weapon attack. So with that become as though you are using a weapon, but it shoots from your sphere as a range attack. So it's still an attack, but range attack. It means that it's subjected to variance of min and max of that attack. Unlike the spell power whereby I kind of scale up. And if you don't put any passive onto your storm skill, it is not going to be fantastic anyway. So if you convert this power into taking on 110 or 100% or 120% of the weapon damage, you end up better off, because your weapon probably outperform your storm skill. So that is number one to take note of. Really cool. And the beauty of this build is really not to damage enemy with any storm power. The storm power is a very cheap power. It's a basic power. It only costs 13 energy to fire off, and you can regenerate a lot quicker as well. You will see later on, the lightning bolt is to be able to split off, hit multiple targets, and to poison the target, and to cause plague to the target. And that is the beauty of it, because the the damage is not from the, well, storm damage is still not bad because it does the weapon damage, but it's really what goes on behind the scene with all the poison damage and so on. I'll show you in just a bit. So it's really cool, and also I use it to gain rage. Because of its relatively fast attack time, you can attack more than twice every second, so it's pretty fast and it hits multiple targets as well, and you also gain rage. So that's really cool. Lightning bolt. So now, with the lightning bolt, the next one I do is really the preparation. Let's talk about preparation, right? So preparation is an aura, and this one is so good that I've decided to max it out. So I would like to focus on the poison damage because I've got some monster infrequent gears that I farmed through other previous kind of characters, and it's sitting around in my bank doing nothing. And this has a variety of being a light armor or medium armor or heavy armor or even the rope as well. So I was thinking of, okay, can I build something poison? And yes, you can. With preparation aura, I can do venom, and venom will provide me with poison weapon damage. And also when I hit an enemy, I can also have a chance to apply plague to the enemy. 50% chance, and you can up that as well across using the other passive. And you can have the weapon coating as well. So what the weapon coating is that all your weapon damage now convert into poison, and the poison further scale up as well with all your passive, with the gear. So it's pretty cool, and you add flat damage to your weapon poison damage. And as we know, as you and I know, that that is very valuable because that kind of up the DPS by a plus absolute number rather than just a percentage, because percentage may not necessarily scale up that well. So that is pretty cool. So that is a plus, and then you can scale up with the percentage. Then it also gives you the crit as well as the crit damage multiplier. So it has a lot of very good potential to it. You can kind of max and min a little bit to say maybe I should swap more into my crit if you found that the crit ratio or the crit damage ratio is not as good. So you could use this as well. But I like this venom a lot. And the graphic is really cool as well. The character turned the green color. And then I use something called lethal strike. So now lethal strike is you can do many wonderful things about it. What it does is that you could, if you use shadow strike, to zoom in into the to kind of like zoom into the enemy from anywhere, and it works really well with the range attack of the sphere, because the sphere you can kind of attack from range, and then you can kind of zoom in to enemy to deliver the lethal strike. And the good thing about it is that if you manage to down the target, in a lot of trash mob you can kind of like half the time you can down it at one shot. You actually reset the cooldown, so you end up teleporting from one enemy to another enemy to another enemy, and it's super fun to see that and play that as well, especially when it works. But sometimes it doesn't work, then you can dodge out and do your own kind of like sphere until another 5.8 seconds, and you can do it again. Now and the other thing is that I also do poison explosion, mainly because I put a lot of investment from a gear, from a passive perspective on the poison damage. So in this case, whenever I do a lethal strike into the target, it deals the poison damage. Also, it kind of like have an explosion around the area 4 meters. So that is good enough for me, because you also can damage a little bit of AoE as well. Doesn't harm, right? Now, there are some very interesting concepts. There's actually a lot of very interesting concepts on this one. You can build around many different things, like the flow. Now, what flow does is that I think it is a way for the game developer to create a mechanism whereby it can be applied through multiple masteries, multiple skills. So it doesn't have to kind of like link to a mastery skill against skill and say, oh, you have to do this and then something happen. It doesn't have to. There's a mechanic whereby it can comment across different skills. I thought it's pretty smart of that. A flow can be generated in multiple ways, but when you consume a flow, you can actually deal more damage, and that's what it means. Now, how can you generate flow? There are a couple of ways I've seen. One way is that when you do lightning bolt, you can invest 2 modifier capacity in order to have a chance to create flow. So you can hit, and then maybe 1 out of 5 times you have a flow, and the flow buff will stay with you for a couple of seconds. And if you do a lethal strike on that, you can actually kind of like deal 25% more damage. The only downside of that in my mind is that, first of all, it's very hard to observe the character flow, because you can see the character, and I can't take my eyes off the character, when you are doing boss fight and so on, to look at the hotbar. It's just kind of difficult. You could, I suppose, but you have to look at one small tiny icon above the hotbar. Now, unlike Rage, whereby you can see the character in Rage with the red hue or aura around it, the flow is yellow color, and the yellow color is very hard to detect against a lot of background that in the game. So a lot of time I couldn't really see whether my character has obtained the flow or not, and when it does, then I have to trigger the lethal strike. And a lot of time also I found that when I do lethal strike, it is in cooldown. So my flow is ready, but my lethal strike is on cooldown, because when last time I did it, I didn't manage to defeat the enemy, and it was no flow, and henceforth I need to wait for 5.8 seconds. And by the time the lethal strike come off cooldown, my flow is gone. So that is a bit difficult, only for 2.5 seconds. Sorry. The other way is to invest 2 modifier capacity to augment your dodge, so that every time when you dodge, you got flow. Then how you're going to work is that you dodge out and then you zoom in with the lethal strike, and hopefully the target is down, you refresh it and so on. I tried that also. I didn't quite like it because the fact that if I want to strike, right, it's usually I strike and then I dodge out, because I'm not that strong against the melee kind of attack. I'm more kind of fragile, but nimble. So I need to kind of dash and then go a strike, and and after that I will dash out again, which consume another dash, right, or whatsoever, if I don't manage to down the enemy. So it just doesn't match my playstyle. However, I can imagine if someone built in a different way whereby it just worked for you to have that kind of flow going on, that's really cool. And also, look, there are also many other ways that you can kind of decrease the cooldown of this lethal strike as well. There's something called mark focus, means that you can do a mark on the target, and then whenever you hit the target with the mark, then you decrease the cooldown. There's a cooldown reduction on this ability, and so on and so forth. So there are many ways to play this, and that's why I love about this game. But I'm more a lazy person, so I found a build that is just purely applying a poison, a build that purely take me to a decent DPS against the enemy, with the additional kind of like poison damage against a group of enemy. I'm happy, but who knows, I may change my mind in the future as well. And last but not the least, of course, I do have the Vanish. And I think the Vanish, to me, I'm not going to do other fancy stuff in Vanish, because it's kind of hard to maintain so many cooldown. If you're really good at it, I think you can optimize it in a very meaningful way. For me, I just want to do a lazy way, whereby when I click Vanish, I can have a buff for 8 seconds to do increased damage and increase movement speed. I'm happy. I don't necessarily have to kind of do other thing that like it will consume my Vanish, or half the time Vanish is the buff get reduced by 50%. All these things you could as well. So I may change my build in the future when I have other option to be more powerful, but meanwhile I just use it as a passive buff that I click, and then I don't need to remember it for another 8 seconds, that if something happens and kind of like the Vanish kind of gone, then I'm clicking again. So it's easy. I'm a lazy person. Last but not the least, of course, I do have Blink as well, and the Blink will take me from to places, and I think more importantly for me, is not to use the storm power to add DPS, but really to mitigate damage. So whenever I blink, I take lesser reduced damage. 40% is good enough for me. That I'll stop it there. I'm not going to put in any modifier for now. And yeah, last but not the least, I think just want to share with you the gear that I've got for the pair of sphere as well as a shield. And as you can see, there are different kind of shield. There's heavy shield and it's called light shield. And light shield, the requirement is just agility. Likewise for sphere as well, it is agility. Which means to say that if you play a character that's more on the might side, means that you put more points on the might, then you carry a weapon like axe or other thing, but not sphere. And just for your information, more for interesting kind of like thing, if you want to use a sword, then you put into something called fitness. Fitness is something that you benefit overall all the sub secondary attributes. So it's interesting. Different weapon require different kind of like attribute, and different attribute will drive the decisioning for the gear, the armor that you use. So for this character, I'm using a mix of light armor and medium armor. I'm leaning towards the medium armor. Yes, lesser dodge, recovery, speed because of it's heavier than light, of course, but it does give me a little bit more protection. So I like it. So sorry, I mean this video dragged on a little bit longer than usual because I really love this character. And I'm very keen to see what more I can do in terms of this game with other mastery. I think I left with just one more with the dual class kind of mastery. Then after that I can do a pure mastery. So I can do a pure earth, pure storm, pure kind of like, you know, rogue and so on. So I'm very excited to see pure warfare as well. So I'm very excited to see how much I can get from this game. So far, I think it's a good, very good experience. So I hope some of you get to enjoy and play as well. But you know, you can wait until you get more content to make the decision. You don't have to rush into a game. But I happen to like it from day one. So see you again soon. Goodbye.